Here's Golf to Go with Frank LaRosa.
David Feherty is a former 20-plus year playing professional on the European and PGA Tours. In 1997, he retired as a player on tour and began his career as an on-course golf reporter and analyst. He hosted 150 talk shows called Feherty for the Golf Channel, and he also hosts a one-man show, Feherty Off Tour. He's an American treasure. Now, I say that knowing that he was born in Ireland, but he lives here now in this country. So possession is 9/10 of the law. So he's ours now. Hi, David. How are you?
I'm fine. And I've been an American since the 23rd of February, 2010. So you're safe to say that, Frank.
That's amazing that date is just emblazoned in your mind.
It's a very important date to me. I'll never forget it.
So what have you been doing since the last time I saw you? You were at the Tour Championship, were you not?
That's right. The BMW, the FedEx Cup playoffs, and then the Tour Championship, and we've got the Ryder Cup coming up next week.
So can you explain that Tour Championship thing to me? The FedEx Cup? I'm not sure I understand it.
Yeah, it's it goes on the FedEx Cup rankings, and how they do it is it's all voodoo to me. The world rankings are very similar. I'm not quite sure how they compute it, but no matter what way you look at it, Patrick Cantlay won $15 million.
That's not a bad paycheck.
Yeah, and I've had a little pushback from people saying that's too much money. It's an elitist sport, but if you compare it to what athletes in other sports are earning, you get your 200, 300, 400 million dollar contracts in basketball and football, and baseball. It's small potatoes, really.
Yeah. I'd like to have a few of those potatoes. Let's
Yes.
David, let's start at the beginning. You were born in Bangor, County Down, Northern Ireland. What's it like growing up as a child there?
Well, I grew up I was born in 58, and the Troubles started in 69 in Northern Ireland. So a lot of my formative years were in an urban warfare environment. There were bombs and sectarian murders and soldiers. I grew up surrounded by soldiers, and I've had an affinity with them ever since. But it was still the violence and that's why it was localized. I lived in an area where there wasn't much of it, and for me it just felt like a normal childhood. I had two loving parents, two sisters, a dog, lived by the sea. It was a good place to grow up.
Yeah, it sounds idyllic except for what was going on down the road, huh?
That's right. Yeah.
So some point somebody introduced you to a golf club. How did that happen, and when was the first time you had one in your hands?
Well, my father was a sort of a prominent member of the golf club. We lived about 200 yards from the clubhouse, Bangor Golf Club, and he only played golf at the weekends. He didn't play that much, to be honest with you. He would tell my mom he was going to play golf, and he would go to the bar. So I ended up on the practice ground with a couple of clubs that he cut down for me. I guess I was 9 or 10 years old and big enough to carry his bag when he played. And that's really how I got into the game.
Well, we know you played on tour for 20 plus years, but how did the game affect you as a person?
How did it affect me? It absorbed me, and at the time I didn't know it. But I take Adderall and Vyvanse, to this day, attention deficit medicines, and I was such an attention deficit kid that only things that absorbed me, really, those are the only things I could think about. And there was music, and there was English, and there was golf. And I decided I couldn't make a living, out of music or English. So golf was pretty much the only thing that was left for me.
With 5 wins on the European Tour, I'm sure you've got a lot of stories. But as you think back, what was the most exciting moment on the golf course?
For me, I don't think you need to look much farther than the Ryder Cup. I played in 1991. the War on the Shore. It was really the first Ryder Cup that captured the American golfing public's attention. It all came down to the last putt on the last green in the last match on Sunday, Bernhard Langer and Hale Irwin. And I tell people I helped the Europeans lose that one. Because Bernard missed that putt and the cup stayed. If he'd made it, it would have come home on Concorde with us to Europe. But it slipped past the right edge and stayed in America.
You had an interesting exchange with Payne Stewart in one of those matches as a marshal decided he was going to exercise some authority, huh?
Yeah, that's right. I was 4 up with 4 to play on Payne on Sunday. I played Payne in singles, and he was the U.S. Open champion at the time. I knew him well from having met him at the British Open and the Scottish Open, and when he would come over, and when I would come over and play the PGA and the U.S. Open over here, and we were good friends. And I lost 2 holes in a row, and ahead of me, Colin Montgomery was playing Mark Calcavecchia, who had been 5 up with 5 to play, and ended up tying the match with Colin Montgomery. Lost the last 5 holes. Wow. So all I could imagine was me losing the last 4 holes. I was in a state of flat panic. I think, trying to make my way from the 16th green to the 17th tee, and the crowd control had broken down. So I'm fighting my way through, and this lady marshal appeared in front of me with her quiet please sign. She poked me in the chest with it, and she said, "Where do you think you're going?" Like I was a heavily disguised spectator or something. And I was about to lose my mind, which is exactly what you would like your opponent to do in that situation, when an arm came around my shoulder and Payne just put his face, I remember it so well, right on mine like that. I can still smell the red man from the plug of tobacco he had in there. And he had that stupid schoolboy grin. And he said, "Ma'am, I'd love you to keep this asshole right here, but he's playing against me." And he swept me up onto the 17th tee in his arm. And, I managed to, it was a very long par 3. I managed to half that hole with him and win the match.
What do you think that, the David Feherty of today might say to that David Feherty of that day?
Ah, boy, stop drinking a little earlier, I would say. That was the one thing that sort of nagged me throughout my career. That sort of, I've such an addictive personality. Drugs and alcohol really probably shortened my playing career, to be perfectly honest.
We had talked a while back about your playing career and your television career, and I think I asked you then which you found tougher. Let's talk about that a bit. Yeah.
I was never what I would consider to be like truly in the top echelon of players. I mean, I won a few times and I played Ryder Cup, but I just, I didn't have either the work ethic or the ability to want to be in a place where I knew I was going to be uncomfortable. And I only discovered that feeling when I got into television. I did want to be in that place, because and I noticed this from some 150 plus interviews I did on my interview show, that the successful people have that in common. They actually want to be in a place where they know they're going to be uncomfortable. And I didn't particularly embrace that. I'm not even sure that I realized it, while I was playing. But I did. The minute I got into television, I thought, this is where I want to be. And it's not that I was comfortable there, because live television is live television. But I was happier there than I'd ever been as a player.
Well, you've certainly created a distinct delivery, partly due to your accent, but I find your comments, they're almost musical, and partly that is your accent, partly that is your wit, and and mostly, I mean, they're right on the mark. How does that happen for you?
I don't know. I mean, I think I got a good deal of a good portion of common sense from my mother. and perhaps the creativity from my father, whom I lost, about 5 years ago to Alzheimer's. He was a tremendously funny man by accident. In fact, but my mother was too. But humor and Ireland sort of go together. I remember my father coming home late from work, and he'd stopped at the golf club to have a few drinks with the boys. And my mother was one of those wee Church of Ireland ladies with, her house coat on, and she was a working mom, and she had your dinner on the table at 6 o'clock, whether you were there or not. So my father came in about 7:30, not exactly late, but late for dinner. And my two sisters and I were scrubbed up at the back door, and we were waiting for Dad to come home. And he came in through the door, and you could smell the whiskey immediately. And he's, "Oh, kids, how you doing?" And everything. And he sees my mother. She's standing across the kitchen with a face on her like Colin Montgomery, and he said, "Oh, yeah, dear, sorry. I stopped at the club and had a few drinks with the lads. Is my dinner, is it still warm?" My mom said, "Yes, it's in the dog." So I got a good, that was the environment I grew up in, that my mom and dad put up with each other, I think, in a lot of ways, but, they were married for nearly 60 years, and I still have my mom. I spoke to her yesterday. She just had her hip replaced. She's 91.
Wow.
And just as great an attitude and sharp as a razor. I hope I get her genes in that regard.
The state of the game today, what do you think? How are we doing? We doing okay?
I think it's fantastic. We've got a group of youngsters at the top, and some slightly older guys that they actually like each other. They spend time with each other off the golf course. They wait for each other behind the 18th green. If one of them doesn't play so well, they're glad to see the others do well, and that's an unusual thing. I don't think you see it in many other sports. Mm-hmm. But even during the time that I played, and it's not that I wouldn't call it a dislike, with Sebi and Greg Norman and we and Faldo and players in Europe. They didn't hang out with each other. There wasn't that sort of thing, and they didn't really even know each other. The players at the very top of the game, and we're in an era now where these kids, it's like they go on school spring break with each other. It seems Ricky Fowler and Jordan Spieth and Jason Day and Justin Thomas, and I mean that they're the best of friends. They're genuinely fond of each other. So I mean, I think it's a great atmosphere to play. What is a unique game. It's unique in sports, because of that.
You look at the two teams that have been compiled for the Ryder Cup this year, and it looks like it's really going to be very exciting. I mean, both teams are really strong.
Yeah, they are. 6 rookies on our side, and I say our side because I'm an American, and I pledge allegiance to the flag and anybody who fights or plays underneath it, as far as I'm concerned, which makes me less than popular with some of my old Ryder Cup teammates, but that's just the way it is. So and you can't be biased as a commentator. I'll be as neutral as I possibly can next week at the Ryder Cup, but deep down I'll be hoping that the Americans win.
Our young man here from Sacramento doesn't have enough years under his belt yet, but what do you think of Cameron Champ? What's your reaction to him?
Well, Cameron Champ is one of those kids that's just unlimited potential, it seems to me. I hope he can realize some of it. I mean, he's a phenomenal player when he plays well, incredibly long, as so many of them are these days. And I've met him a couple of times. He seems like a really nice kid with a great attitude. I'm sure he'll do well.
Yeah. Product of the first tee here in Sacramento. It's a really good story.
Is he really? That's tremendous.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You want to be busy all the time. That's really important to you. Talk about why that is.
Well, they say that spare time is the addict's worst enemy, and that's true. Idle hands, and all the rest of it. I need to keep myself busy, and try to make sure that I don't relapse. And it's just the way that I'm made up. The way that my mind works. I have difficulty, stopping it from spinning. At times, and I need to find something that is compelling or I find absorbing. To be able to just keep on doing what I do.
And in that regard, who are the people that had the biggest impact, or who is the person who had the biggest impact on your life?
Tom Watson. In fact, he's the big brother that I never had. He has been so important to me. I can't even tell you. I played golf with him yesterday. I played golf for the first time in 16 years. I played 9 holes with Tom, and I can't imagine me starting with anybody else. I got run over by a truck. Well, it was a contest between me on a bicycle and a truck and trailer carrying lawn equipment, in which I came off a distant second. I think it would be safe to say I got crushed very badly down my left side, broke all the ribs and punctured a lung, but it mangled my left arm to the extent that I can't close my left hand properly. So, I really lost touch with golf because it was too painful. But over the years, it's... I don't know. It's become less painful, and I thought yesterday it would be a good idea if I went out and tried to play. Wasn't such a good idea, as it turns out. I suck. I had difficulty getting the ball in the air. I looked like a 24 handicapper, but it didn't hurt that badly. So it sort of gives me some hope that I might be able to, find a way to play again.
That's great. I'm really happy to hear you're playing, because I know how much the game means to you. With what a person like Tom has done for your life, do you find yourself paying it forward as well?
Oh yes, yeah. Tom is also an alcoholic, and he was the one who grabbed me by the scruff of the neck so a lot of years ago now, and just he got me back into shape, and has been a constant. We're miles apart, but I never feel that far from him. I check up on him and he checks up on me, and we just, we care about each other. And he's an incredibly important, incredibly kind and sensitive man that I've been unbelievably lucky to have him as a friend.
One of the things that's really fascinating about you, David, is there does not seem to be an off-limits question. You are incredibly and sometimes brutally honest with your answers because that's who you are. Where does that kind of courage come from?
Well, I think in the long run, it's therapeutic for me to be honest about who I am and the way that I got here. And the thought that it might help somebody else is very therapeutic to me as well, because if I can get past the bipolar and the addiction and the alcoholism, then other people can too. And I think it's important for people in the public eye to share those things. I think it helps a lot of other people.
You kind of alluded to it a little while ago. Peter Jacobson described you as maybe there isn't very many Americans that have done more for the military and for veterans than you. And I know that means a great deal to you. You were awarded, basically it's the 3rd highest award that a civilian can get for your contributions, not only to the U.S. Army, but to the veterans. And so there's a big paying it forward right there.
Yeah, well, like I said, I grew up surrounded by soldiers, and when 9/11 happened here, I was already in love with the country, and I couldn't bear the thought of it happening, in this place. I went to Iraq in the early 2000s with the USO to try and entertain the troops, and I went there an Irishman and I came back an American. That's my wife always wanted to be married to an Irishman. She wasn't so keen on me being an American citizen. But when I came back from Iraq, she relented, and I went through the process and became an American citizen in 2010. But my Troops First Foundation, and if anybody wants to help, go to troopsfirstfoundation.org and you can find out about it. But we built 7 houses up near Walter Reed, transitional houses for kids coming out of the hospital. We have a ranch that we've just bought in Maryland, kind of a refuge for them. We supply service dogs to veterans, and we have an operation called Operation Warrior Call, where we try to keep them in contact. We try to keep the wounded in contact with their battle buddies, their brothers and sisters in arms. And we find, with the suicide rate being just astronomical within our military, that we've done a good job in the foundation of attempting to halt the flow, if you like. We have had a couple of suicides, but statistically speaking, we're doing really well. I think that's one of the most important things that we do.
Well, and you're not just exclusive to your foundation. You were honored out here a little while ago by the Langley, which was named after Jim Langley, honoring the champions of our country, and that was for PGA Hope, and you just sort of jumped into that with both feet as well. Yeah,
it's a very important. Any chance that I get to help with a military charity is. Again, it's therapeutic to me. I feel like I'm doing something that perhaps helps somebody else, and it makes me feel better.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
10 years, I will be 73, Frank. I see myself on my farm. I have a little timber farm in East Texas, and we've just finished the building and laid the grass. And I see myself sitting on the step outside watching the deer and foxes and coyotes. And we got the fattest raccoon in the history of raccoons. I've been feeding him. He's got to weigh 35 pounds. He's huge. So I just love to be there. I love the solitude of it, and I love the peacefulness of it. That's where I see myself.
You're really amazing that you can provide these sort of gut-busting laughs for all of us while your gut's probably doing backflips, the being on the tightrope all the time. I applaud you for getting up there day after day.
Well, I don't have anything else to
do. David, the Langley kind of brought us together, and I really felt a bit of a kinship. I think I just appreciated you as a human being, not as an entertainer, and I appreciate the opportunity to kind of get to know you as a man. You're you let us laugh so hard. It's laughing so hard that it almost feels like we're crying. But that's a gift that you have, and I salute you. You're a good man, David Feherty.
Well, you're very kind to say so, Frank, and I love people with low standards.
Well, I will do my best to raise them in the years to come.
All right.
David, thanks so much for your time. I know you're in Portland. You're going to go see Nancy Lopez, and
that's right.
And they will enjoy you as well. Be well.
Yeah. Thank you, my friend.
Good to talk to you.